All right. Hi, everyone. Welcome to our webinar, Easy Data Backup and Recovery for Salesforce. I'm Mike Samboy, Head of Marketing for AutoRABIT, and I'm going to be your host for today's session. Our featured guest today is Shri Mandati. Shri is the product owner for AutoRABIT Vault. I want to start out our session today by asking a question. How safe is your Salesforce data? Specifically, many people have a backup plan, but they don't really know how easy or effective it would be to actually restore data from their backups. Now, we've talked with many of our DevOps customers, and we've also examined traditional backup and recovery solutions in the market. And what we've discovered is that most of them are lacking when it comes to effectively backing up and restoring Salesforce data. AutoRABIT Vault is a simple new approach that allows you to restore all data and metadata while maintaining parent-child relationships. So it's a solution that lets you maintain a cohesive relationship between metadata and data, which allows you to selectively restore part of your backup snapshot if necessary, and lets you recover one-to-one, one-to-n, and end-to-end relationships. And the technology underlying Vault is used successfully thousands of times a day. So just a little bit of housekeeping here before we move on. We will be taking questions during the session. And how you ask a question is you look at the bottom of your Zoom webinar toolbar. You'll see a Q&A button. Click that. You can go ahead and type your question at any time. We will hold all the questions until the end and answer them then. And if for some reason we don't get to your question on this session, we will follow up with you directly. So a little bit about AutoRABIT. AutoRABIT was founded in 2013 specifically to solve the challenges of DevOps for Salesforce. Now, we've grown over the last 5 years to over 110 employees located in 4 offices around the globe. We've deployed hundreds of millions of metadata objects to our 100+ customers, which includes 50 of the Fortune 100. In this next slide, you'll just see a sampling of some of the customers that we've served. Now, a little bit about our DevOps solutions. AutoRABIT is the only metadata-aware continuous integration suite for Salesforce DevOps. Our RABIT toolkit, so RABIT, which stands for Rapid Application Build, Install, Test, optimizes and simplifies DevOps processes, resulting in 10x faster deployments, fewer defects, and better overall compliance. Now, below you'll see our integrated solutions. These solutions work together to seamlessly automate the build, deploy, test, and release phases of your DevOps processes and integrate with over 100 other industry tools. Our latest product edition, Vault, extends the capabilities of the AutoRABIT suite, bringing metadata-aware backup and recovery to your DevOps process. Now, the benefits of metadata awareness are, move to the next slide, a few of the benefits are seamless data migration at scale, surgical data deployments for rapid recovery. And as I mentioned earlier, the underlying core technology used in Vault has been used in our DevOps solutions, so its restore capabilities are tested daily. How often has it been used? So we've migrated 10 billion records, deployed 250 million metadata objects through over 15,000 deployments for our 100+ customers located in 15 countries. So that's just a snapshot, and the numbers increase daily. So this is a tested technology. So now I'm going to turn it over to Shri, and Shri is going to go deeper into the components of what effective backup and recovery looks like for Salesforce data, and he's going to walk you through a use case using Vault. Shri, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thank you, Mike. So what we're looking at is, why do we need an external backup and restore solution from a Salesforce perspective? Most of you have been working with multiple regulatory bodies, for example, like HIPAA and FINRA. They do require you to have immutable backups, and according to Forrester, the regulatory fines are skyrocketing. They could be running at about 4% to your global revenues, and up to 20 million pounds, whichever is greater, if you compromise or breach any of the European citizens' data. Not having a backup strategy is more like not just a fire extinguisher, but you are risking to actually being illegal. But if you're like me, what does data loss means? It's not just system failures. 70% of the loss is actually user errors. And the SaaS vendors, they cannot tell which change you make are intentional and which are accidental. They can be responsible for the integrity of your business system. You need your own backup system. Now let's say, what does Salesforce itself says? Within the Salesforce community, they provide a export capability to do on a weekly basis. And not sure how familiar are you with the on-prem applications, but the restoration procedure, applications would be stopped for maintenance, databases switched with backup copies, and turn back the application and done. But SaaS applications like Salesforce are different. They have some inherent limitations. You cannot shut down the system for a backup recovery. It needs to be recovered while your tenants are still using your instance. And there are, for example, IDs that are auto-generated, and you cannot use them while you're recreating that. And you need specialized knowledge and tools in order to restore this. You need to scout through gigabytes or petabytes of data to isolate records that needs restoration. You need to build independent files for each data object. You need to map out the object hierarchy and iteratively load all of your parent objects and modify your child objects with your new IDs and load that in. If you're a system administrator, you might have lived this hell. You might have done this a number of times. You know how painful this is going to be. It's going to be prohibitively longer to restore into your system. Now let's say, how complex is the Salesforce data? This is just one snapshot. I believe most of you can probably read it. This is in very, very tiny font in here. But you know the complexity of the system, and then you know every object is linked with multiple objects. For example, opportunity is linked with quote, with contracts, with orders, with accounts, and with price books. Now, the higher the relationships depth, harder it is for you to manually restore this data. But just to sum that up, all relationships are complicated. We understand that from real life also, just as in Salesforce. You have relationships that follow the master detail relationship, wherein you have cascade deletes. If you delete one object, it will cascade and delete all of the dependent objects from there on. You have many-to-many relationships, which actually complicates the matter further. Most of the records have relationships not just with one parent, but with multiple. Like say, for example, opportunities or quotes. Those are linked with opportunity. A quote is linked with your opportunity. It's linked with your accounts, and so on. And then there are lookup relationships, wherein there's no cascade deletions, but again, you have a relationship with an external object. And for example, if you're restoring and you know IDs will change, now you have to go back and fix all of the relationships in the system. Now, these are complicated relationships, but how does it really matter to you? How does it really matter to an organization? What does it mean when something breaks to you? If something breaks, how soon can you restore? And how far back can you restore? These two are the primary terms used in the backup industry to know about your efficiency of your operation, to know about your maturity level of your backup and restore strategy. If you're talking about a recovery point objective, which is how far back that you can lose your data and still tolerate running your business. Or RTO, which is recovery time objective, how soon can you recover from a failure and how soon your business can stop tolerating and then leads to a shutdown. For example, it will take about 17 days to get your CRM system up and running, and your CEO, what would he say to you? You don't want that particular situation. So let's say your RPO and RTO in relation with some event happening. You have the time lapse between the backup, between the last successful backup and the failure event is your RPO. And the time lag between the event or the disaster and how soon is your system back up and running with full functionality is your RTO. Now, if you are using Salesforce standard standard weekly exports, or you're using the Salesforce built-in recovery mechanisms, you need to work through Salesforce systems. You need to retrieve your backups from tape, and it approximately takes about 6 weeks plus, as indicated by Salesforce itself, to recover the system. You're looking at about 7 weeks plus worth of data either lost or not available for business. Now, we are introducing Vault. With Vault, the claims that we are trying to make, you can do your RPO at 5 minutes or around 5 minutes. Every 5 minutes, you take incremental backups. So you do have a backup copy in order to restore back if you know something happened. And it's always a point and click restore. At max, you're estimating about 1 hour. Most of the time, it could be taking less than an hour for you to really run that. Vault is a comprehensive backup management tool. You can do your backups. You can do your restoration. You can also use the system for seeding to load your production data or partial production data into a sandbox or a test instance so that you always get accurate representation of how you wanted to test your system. And we do provide flexible storage options. This would help you in working with your compliance requirements. If you have data in EU specific, if you have data in Europe or Australia or US, we can work with those. All of the data that runs through the system is all encrypted, at rest, and in transit. It combines both of your data and metadata from different backups into one restore. What does this mean to you is, let's say you have a backup last week for a full backup, and then you have incremental backups every day. Instead of scoring through individual backups, you can actually combine all of the incremental backups and do a restore with a single click. That one is a powerful solution for you to make sure that your data integrity is intact. You do run into issues where if you're not able to restore data to the n depth of hierarchy, then your records would not be totally restored back, and you lose the integrity of your system. Let me see. What else do we offer, or how are we different, or what's our strong point? With the incremental backups, you're able to reduce your RPO to around 5 minutes instead of the weekly exports from Salesforce. With the selective restore, basically what you're doing is, instead of restoring the complete backup into it, you can pick and choose a particular object or at a record level to restore into your system. the record level restoration to your system is pretty fast. Now, you don't need to score through your gigabytes or petabytes of database of your data to restore into the system. And when you're doing selective restore, the hierarchy of the data objects is considered, is all taken care of to protect your integrity. The system is built for scalability. And as Mike has earlier pointed out, we have run through hundreds, if not thousands, of data migrations, and we close to crossed over 100 billion rows or 100 billion records that have been restored into the system. What good is your backup solution if it has not been exercised for a restore? And that's the strength where we come from. Now, if you want to see, let's see into the use case. One particular use case probably rhymes with most of you, or a small variation of this use case would be, you have a disgruntled employee or a tired employee, or by an accidental reasons can create a havoc. You could delete a few opportunities in the system, or you could have changed some of the data on your opportunities. And how do you get the data back? I haven't seen a Control Z option on Salesforce. So you cannot just snap a finger and then get the data back. But luckily, if you have a backup of these records on Vault, we are able to restore that for you. Now let me get into actual demo showcase here. Because we don't have a lot of time, I have some data prepped up earlier. So let me open that screen.
While Shree's getting that set up, just to say to everybody on the webinar, thank you. There's lots of questions rolling in for the Q&A period. They're great questions. Keep them coming. We'll cover as many of them as we can right after the demo here.
Thank you, Mike. So a particular use case that we are trying to cover right now is, in the Salesforce system, let's say I have one account, pyramid construction. Most of you might be familiar with it from the Dreamhouse projects. You have contacts associated with that. You have opportunities associated with that. And you have tasks associated with that. Now, what happens? I'm sleepy or I don't like working here. I go ahead, I delete this object. Oops, data is gone. This opportunity could have been a deal closure. Now, all of your systems, all of your reporting would get messed up. I don't stop here. I actually go to the recycle bin. I actually delete this record from the recycle bin. It's gone. Now there's no trace. There's no way how you can restore the system back. Another record. And then we can do a lot more of those. Let me see from the accounts perspective, pyramid construction here, number 7 is just gone. We don't have that. All of the opportunities associated with the pyramid construction here, let's say, no more pyramid construction opportunities. So account, I deleted the account. As the opportunities are related to that, those are deleted as well. Now, what do we do with Vault? At Vault, I had this organization registered with me. I had a backup of this schedule. I am considering all of my accounts and every object in the system. I'm trying to restore, do a backup, incremental backup on a frequent basis. Now, in order to save some time here, I just took these backups a little while back. I had a full copy of this backup with every data available in there, all of the 12 accounts that were in there. The pyramid account is a part of this. Now I want to bring this account back. Let's say I want to restore. This is a live operation I'm doing right now. Help me gods to save. Select to restoration. I go into my data. I see lots of accounts here. Nope, I don't want to score through all of those accounts. I want to search the pyramid account. Good job. Thank you. I just selected that one pyramid account. Remember, I did not select anything else. Say trigger a restore. Now this is actually restoration happening in real time while we wait. Please make sure if you have any questions, please add on to the Q&A. And then in just a little while, I'll be able to see these opportunities back on board here. Not yet. So what this is doing right now is it's actually looking at the system. It's getting the dependency hierarchy. In fact, Vault's dependency analyzer was released even before Salesforce internal dependency analyzer. So we use our dependency analyzer mechanism to actually run through the system and then find out all of the objects that are related to this account and restore independently. So now if you see the account object is restored, the opportunity object is also restored in here. Now accounts, pyramid construction is here, and the account ID is different. A new account ID is generated, and the opportunity, the contacts have been restored with the new ID in place for you. And if you remember, all it took was for me to say restore now, select that one individual record account, and then say restore. I did not go through a manual process of creating these relationships. I did not read about the relationships. I did not create CSV files manually, nor I scored through multiple file systems to come to this point. Thank you. That would be the end of the demo perspective. Now let's go back and see if you have any particular questions that needs answer.
Hey, Shri. So thanks for the demo. Thanks for the great overview. There are a lot of questions that are coming in. So I'm going to just start going through them to you. They're really good questions. A few people have asked, Kevin and a few others on the call, are there limits to the level of child relationships that will be followed? Or, there are several questions along that time about limits of levels for the child relationships.
Thank you, Mike. Child relationships is the most important attribute when you are dealing with data integrity. And one thing that we have considered right from the start of get-go of this product was, let us not have any kind of theoretical restrictions on the system. How far deep can it go? So unlimited depth hierarchy.
Great. So then there's also, I'm looking through here, there are several pertaining to where data is stored. So I'll give you a few, so maybe you can wrap them up into an answer. Where is this data? Where's the data stored? Can I choose where it's stored? And what types of encryption what type of encryption is used when storing the data?
Sure. Data with us is stored encrypted at rest on Amazon S3 by default on our SaaS offering. We do provide you an option to store on Amazon S3 or Azure Blobs or GCP. And the data could also be chosen with geographic restrictions. Let's say you want to store or you don't want to move your European data anywhere outside of the European zone. There's provision for that.
So someone just asked a follow-up question to that. Specifically, do I get to manage the keys for encryption?
Managing the keys for encryption is on the roadmap right now. We will be releasing that in this quarter. Right now, it's Amazon AWS keys. You can choose your S3 buckets. We can actually work with your S3 buckets. And when you're working with your S3 buckets, those are encrypted with your keys by default.
Got it. And there are so there's a few questions. I think they're related. I'll try and wrap them up here. In terms of comparing the data or being able to see the before, the after. So one of the questions is, can we compare the data before the backup is used and after the restore, and in parentheses, data on the org?
Data in the org, yes, you can see. Right in the compare option, you can select that particular backup, whichever backup you want to compare from, and then you could do a live compare. Live compare is a very, very powerful feature where you are actually picking up a particular object and then say, how does this compare with the current situation or the current data in the organization?
Okay. A couple of people are asking questions around when an account is restored, what is restored with it? Are tasks restored, activities?
Everything will be restored. All of the dependent objects to that would be restored. Yes, it includes tasks, it includes activities, it includes attachments, it includes other dependent objects from there. And also, just to add to that, you don't need to necessarily choose an account to restore. You could have chosen an opportunity, and it would have realized that the account that this opportunity was tied to was also deleted, was also not available, and it will restore the parent as well.
Got it. One question that just came in is there a way to see the logs of restore processes, errors, and details?
Yes, there is a way to see the complete log of what's happening. And in case of errors, it will be shown on screen for you.
Great. A comment just came in about surgical restore. As we mentioned, the in quotes, surgical restore recovery. Can you explain more about that?
Thank you. Surgical restore is a way for you to eliminate one of the backups from in between. So let's say you have a weekly full backup on the Monday, and then you have your subsequent incremental backups on every day after that, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Now, let's say there is a faulty record on the Monday, but there are subsequent changes that are happening on top of that later on. So that's where you pick the full backup on the Monday, skip the incremental backup from the Tuesday, and then pick up the subsequent incremental backups, and then choose your record by ID or by name or somehow. When you choose your ID and restore, it will apply them in order. So it will apply the changes from the full backup, skip the backup that you don't want to be applied, and then reapply all of the incremental changes that happen after that.
Great. One other question that just came in is, does Vault backup all Force.com or other managed/app exchange packages?
Yes. Vault is built on the Force.com API. Everything that's accessible from the Force.com API, everything, all of the standard objects and the custom objects created with it would be backed up. When we are talking about managed packages, a restoration of a managed package is not directly possible through an API. But once you install the managed package, the data that goes along with it could be restored with Vault.
Great. One question came as a follow-up when you were talking to the storage in S3 earlier. It says, for backups in S3, can I use my AWS buckets?
Yes, you will be able to use your AWS buckets.
And which it's the secondary question to it is, what files do you actually store there?
We store the CSV file formats for all of your Salesforce data objects, and then we create the package XML formats for all the metadata changes.
That's great. That was actually the third question the person asked. You just answered it. That's good. That's great.
Thank you.
Another question, and great, people keep the questions coming in. This is great. They're really flying in. And again, if we can't get to them in this session, we will follow up with you via email with answers. Question, does this work with Lightning? What about DX?
Yes, it does work with Lightning. And DX is primarily a data migration or initiating a sandboxes tool. Yes, we do work with the sandboxes created through the DX. You can restore data into those sandboxes. So it's both, yes, Lightning and DX eligible, or you can work with them.
Great. Another question just came in. How are you different from other backup solutions that claim they do Salesforce backups, for example, Own Backup?
Thank you. Very, very loaded question. I don't know if I can really quote that, but yes, AutoRABIT's primary expertise comes with the ability to restore or migrate data. As the stats earlier were shown by Mike, we have restored over 100 plus billion rows, billion records. We have restored over 100 million metadata objects, and that's our primary business. We do that day in and day out with our 100 plus Fortune accounts. On top of that, we provide that incremental backups. It provides an additional value for you in reducing your RPO, in your ability to keep or at least restore data that could have been lost otherwise. And with the surgical restore option, combined with those, that's our strength.
Thanks, Sri. And we're going to take 3 or 4 more questions here and then wrap it up. Question, how often can the data how often can the data backup be scheduled? Can it be scheduled for less than 5 minutes? Let's say 3 minutes.
Currently, we are running at 5 minutes, but if you absolutely have a need for 3 minutes, we'll definitely work with you, and then we can make that happen. It's technically possible. We just want to work a scenario for you.
Understood. Thanks, Sri. Few more questions here. Can we only restore a subset of fields on an object? For example, only a custom field which has been blanked by a batch.
Custom field is a little tricky. Sorry, not just custom field. Restoring one field is a little tricky, but that is being worked on right now into the Q2.
Got it. Question about one more question about AWS buckets. Kevin asked if I bring my own AWS bucket, what's stored there, and can I audit it?
What's stored there is, let me walk you through the hierarchy of it. All of your Salesforce organizations that are registered, and all of the multiple configurations that you have an ability to create, which will segregate based on your RPO requirements and RTO requirements, and all of the data that comes in those configurations. So for example, let's say you could have a configuration that would combine accounts, opportunities, cases. Let's say your business cannot survive without them for a long time. Based on the RTO, you would create a new configuration. And then for those configurations, just those records would be stored. And the data is stored in a consumable format in CSV. It can be audited, as in you can tie into when was this backups performed, and where are the CSV files located. And then all of the metadata objects that got changed in the same time frame would be saved as the XML files, as a standard package.xml format, so that you can import them outside of the system if you have the ability or if you have the expertise to do that.
All right, and Michael asked an interesting question about the use of Vault. He said, I want to know how to use AutoRABIT to track configuration and programming changes. How does it document the changes and push the changes to multiple environments?
This is a little outside the scope of the Vault product by itself, but as an AutoRABIT product, we track the changes through version control mechanism. And you can, of course, look through the changes that are happening based on the commit history from there. Those commits are taken into the subsequent systems, our subsequent landscapes. That's one way. Another way through Vault, not to really migrate, but metadata objects are backed up, let's say on the same 5-minute interval. So every 5 minutes, you can actually check or monitor how many changes have occurred for your objects.
Got it. Thank you. And then a couple more questions here. Is it possible to restore data based on a specific user and date?
Specific user and date. Specific user, not yet, but specific date, yes. You can pick up your incremental backups from those dates, and then you can restore from there.
Great, thank you. And then there's several questions that have come in about pricing and licensing. Can you tell us a little bit about how that works?
Sure. The primary pricing is based on the number of Salesforce license users. That approximately proxies us for the database sizes and the complexity of your database, and the data size or the data volume in the Salesforce system. So primarily two components to sum it up: number of your Salesforce users and the size of your database.
Got it. And then there are a few questions that have come in about how do I find out more? How do I help get this price? Can you tell us a little bit about next steps?
Next steps is me and my team are available to run specific customized demos for your use case, and then see how it fits your organization. We'll work through your requirements about that. Please reach out to me for any of that. And for your specific environment, I can send you a price code for that. Please reach out to me directly in case we want to extend this discussion further and then run a scheduled demo.
Great. So if you want more information, feel free to send Shri an email directly. You see his information on the screen there, shri.m@autorabit.com. You can also contact your friendly AutoRABIT representative if you've already been talking with someone at AutoRABIT, or if you're a customer of ours. If you reach out to any of us, we will get you to the right place to get more information. So that's going to be a wrap for us today. I want to thank everyone for joining us here today. Shri, thank you so much for the overview. It was a pleasure. And please feel free to reach out to us with any questions. We will be sending out a recording of the webinar in about 24 hours if you'd like to review it. And again, thank you for joining Easy Data Backup and Recovery for Salesforce. This concludes our webinar. Have a great day.
Thank you, Mike.
Thanks, Shri.